Alright, ladies and gentlemen, in this video I'm going to discuss a handful of different subjects ranging from, but not limited to, social anxiety, what it's like to have social anxiety. I'm going to talk about social anxiety and its relation to the Kundalini energy and a handful of different subjects. We're also going to touch on health and just a broad spectrum of different things. So I hope you enjoyed the video. There's been a lot of ground covered in this particular video. It's a little on the longer side, but I enjoy doing the long-winded discussions. Now, originally I wasn't going to do this introduction to the video, but unfortunately part of the beginning of the video stitched to this video got lost in the editing process. So I just kind of wanted to give you guys a rough idea of what to expect in this video, and I hope you enjoy it. Peace out. I didn't want to go down a similar path. It's kind of like in the movie The Matrix, where Neo's about to get out of the car, I believe before he goes to meet Morpheus, and Trinity grabs him. And there's a scene where Neo looks down the road, and Trinity says something to the effect of, "You know where that road goes. You know that that path leads to nowhere good. Do you want to go down that path? Are you sure? You have one more decision." And he contemplates it, and he decides to close the door and continue on his path of self-discovery, which is what the movie The Matrix is largely about. But I'm not going to discuss that in this video. But I kind of went through that process where once I became wiser, I realized that, okay, wait a minute. Do I want to keep continuing my day-to-day algorithm? Do I want to stay in what's familiar? Or do I want to open my perception and learn more and grow into something greater than I'm currently at? Because I think a lot of people get comfortable with where they are in life. And if you get too comfortable in life, ladies and gentlemen, you will stay in a state of stagnation. And metaphorically speaking, when there's a river that stagnates, the water stops flowing and all the bugs come and the parasites and the different bacteria and whatnot. I think a lot of people metaphorically are in a state of stagnation. And when you reach a point of stagnation, not only do you grow mentally, but oftentimes you become stuck in a familiar dietary algorithm. You become stuck in similar philosophical algorithms of thought. So, excuse me. This is probably going to be a longer discussion, you guys. I've been trying to make my videos kind of short and sweet lately. But I feel like making a longer-winded discussion because this is something that I'm very passionate about, social anxiety. Now, I'm not necessarily so passionate about having social anxiety, which I do to a large extent. I'm not going to lie. It may seem kind of contradictory that I'm proclaiming that I have social anxiety, due to the fact that I have, a YouTube channel and I'm broadcasting to people all across the globe. I've looked at my analytics. I reach people in India, I reach people in China, all across the globe, Australia, Egypt. But what's unique about having a YouTube channel is that I don't really feel the social anxiety because I'm discussing things that will be usually received by people who are of like-mindedness. You see, when I'm out in the material world, in the matrix, and I meet people, now this may sound judgmental and rude, but I get terribly bored with people. I get terribly bored with individuals who follow similar patterns that are very commonplace here in the material world. A lot of people want to talk about similar things that are very, not necessarily mundane, but very, very superficial, very, very just non-evolved, so to speak. You see, my passions in life are evolution of the consciousness, the body, the mind. My life's mission is to evolve myself and potentially reach a state of enlightened consciousness through Kundalini. Now, due to the fact that I am so consumed by my studies, due to the fact that I am so consumed by my passions, when I go out into the material world and try to mingle with people, or when they try to mingle with me, because I am a reserved individual, I don't go out and try to just communicate with anyone. I stay to myself. When I go out into the world, it's usually to go out and get groceries or to go exercise, get some sunlight, go hiking. And usually I just want to go do my thing by myself or with some of my very close friends, because I keep a very small circle of people. I have difficulty trusting individuals. My moon is in Scorpio in the 5th house. I have a really, really interesting birth chart, and I highly recommend that people who have social anxiety issues look into their birth chart, because oftentimes when you look into your birth chart, if you've entered the data correctly and the program computes the information back to you, if you know how to look at a birth chart, you can start to recognize certain patterns by looking up, how would I say it? Your birth chart is basically a map of the particular energies that constitute your emotionality and some of your experiences in life. The list could go on and on. I could talk about birth charts. I'll save that for a different video. But if you do have social anxiety issues, or any issues for that matter, look into your birth chart. But I have issues personally with trusting people, and I believe that I have very good reasons for not trusting people, but it's not necessarily that I have a trust issue. My ascending sign is Cancer. I have a lot of moon energy in my chart, and my moon is in Scorpio in the 5th house. So I could go on about that. Maybe we'll save that for a different video. I have a mind that's very consumed by the occult. I have a mind that's very consumed by seeking things beneath the surface. I'm not very interested in superficial things that are commonplace. I have a mission in life, and every day of my life I am consumed by fulfilling that mission. And when I commingle with people that are here in the material world that just want to go get drunk or do drugs or this and that, these people to me are very, very much so distractions along the path. And I hate to be judgmental, but many of the people that I know who try to communicate with me are consumed by drugs and alcohol and superficial things. I've evolved out of my old self, and I've shed my layers. And I've done things with my life that violate what's normal. And I don't mean violate in the sense that I've destroyed anything. I've chosen to trod a unique and different path based on my own values, morals, and philosophies. I view life as a mission. I do not view life, personally, as just, I'm here to do work for the material world and be taxed. I'm not here to do things like that. I am here to do work, but I am here to do the divine work that I discovered through the arousal and stimulation of Kundalini rising. It showed me the truth of the reality that I lived in, and it showed me how much of a prison cell this material world truly is. This material world will get you ensnared by stimulation of the senses. This material world will get you ensnared with distractions. Anything to me, ladies and gentlemen, that makes me deviate away from my path, my mission in life, is a distraction. Now, there's a time and a place for everything. There is a time and a place to sit back and relax and recuperate and go have some fun and keep balance in your life, because life is an act of balance, in my opinion. But I think that we spend so much time in these distractions that we've illegitimately learned to perceive as being the meaning of life. I hope that makes sense. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with going to work every day, having a 9-to-5 job. Absolutely not. We live in a world where you have to pay to play, where things cost money, people have bills. So do I. I work just like everyone else, excuse me. I've just used my creativity to attract abundance, and even though I'm still in the process of reaching that state, I've seen results. Now, after high school, I could have gone to college. I wanted to become a police officer. I could have done a multitude of different things. But I know deep down in my heart that those things wouldn't have fulfilled me the way that I'm fulfilled now. I am consumed by my studies and my mind. I have a very creative mind. when the typical individual is doing things, how would I say it? Let's take a sip of tea. I've got some Schisandra tea here, ladies and gentlemen. This is my favorite tea. I've got the whole berries in there. I don't know if you can see that. Makes it kind of difficult to drink. Schisandra is my favorite herb. It, in my opinion, is probably one of the healthiest substances that you can put into your system. It balances out all three of all three treasures in the traditional Chinese medicine system: the Jing, the Shen, and the Qi. The Jing is your essence. It's related to your genetics. The Qi is your vitality. And the Shen is your connection to source. It's the only herb that can do that. It tonifies the three treasures. The three treasures are the primordial energies that keep your physical body and your consciousness fused together. Schisandra also harbors known as the 5-flavored berry. It harbors sweet, sour, salty, pungent, and bitter. And because of that, it stimulates all 5 major organ systems of the traditional Chinese medicine system. It also, ladies and gentlemen, stimulates all 12 main meridian systems, bypasses into the extraordinary channels, and actually stimulates the 3 major Dantian points within the cerebral spinal system. This is a Kundalini food. However, it has to be sourced properly because there's northern and southern Schisandra. I talk more about Schisandra, how to source it, and how to make it over on my Patreon page. You can find information or a link to my Patreon page in the information description box below. The Patreon page is a paid subscription. It starts at $5 and it goes all the way up to $100 for subscriptions. Each one has a different benefit, different perks. For instance, the $15 subscription gets you a 8 to 15 minute, private video every month of your subscription about whatever subject you want to hear me talk about. However, all 5 subscription options, whether it be the $15 one, the $5 one, or the $25 subscription and up, get you the same access to video content, picture posts, audio uploads, polls, and I post anywhere. For the last 4 or 5 months, I've posted about 5 to 8 hours of content each month. That's all content that you will not find here on the public channel. So if you're interested in supporting my cause, I just want to plug my Patreon really quick. You can go over to www.patreon.com/sacredserpent and consider becoming a member. Again, information is in the link, or links to that website is in the information box below. And if people are interested in donating to my channel, you can do so by following the links in the description box below. I have a PayPal account and a GoFundMe account. I sincerely appreciate your guys' support. It takes time to put this stuff together, and it's nice to see some financial gains from the work that I put in. So people seem to have an issue with that. I don't really care what people think about that, especially with Patreon. I'm putting out about 5 to 8 hours of video content every month, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to edit those videos and put the picture overlays on them and compress them. And I actually have all of my new video content is going to be going on to a private Vimeo account. I don't know if you guys know what Vimeo is, but that costs money as well. So, your support is highly appreciated. So, anyways, I just wanted to get back on subject. Social anxiety. Let's chat about social anxiety, ladies and gentlemen, because when I was younger, I never had social anxiety. My social anxiety didn't really start until I experienced Kundalini in my early 20s. After I experienced Kundalini in my early 20s, things really changed for me because I was given a glimpse into a state of consciousness. I was allowed for brief periods in those Kundalini awakenings to actually see reality through the lens of enlightenment. I have experienced Christ consciousness on a handful of occasions. I am not going to get on here and tell you that I am some enlightened being or that I have my Kundalini activated right now. I don't. However, I was lucky enough to experience these experiences on a handful of occasions. And although those experiences were rather traumatic, and I'll tell you why in just a moment, they allowed me to see the finer things in life that I was shuttering out of my consciousness by being a slave for the Matrix. You see, the Matrix wants to keep the evolution of consciousness at a very low level. They don't want the consciousness to reattain its grasp on enlightenment, because through Kundalini Christ consciousness, we can actually completely change the world. Let me see if my battery's plugged in. Okay. Kundalini is the science and art of evolution, ladies and gentlemen. It's also the science and art of the subconscious mind. But when I experienced Kundalini in my early 20s, I was given a glimpse into the fourth and fifth, sixth dimensional overtones that encompass this third dimensional reality. And I was allowed to communicate with my ancestors. I was allowed to see the angelic kingdoms. I was allowed to see all the geometries around us that actually constitute and hold this material world together. I was allowed to interact with it and see the weaving of these geometries, this lattice work of light that actually constitutes and makes up this reality, the fabric of reality, I call it. And once I experienced the Kundalini, and after I saw those things, my life changed forever, because not only was I allowed to actually see into the quote-unquote invisible aspects of reality that we can't see anymore because we're at such a low state of de-evolution. Not only was I allowed to see those things, but my life completely changed forever because my senses had become highly stimulated. My chakras in the nerves in my spinal system, the blood in my system became hyperstimulated due to the presence of the Kundalini moving through my genetics. So to try to keep things simple, authentic Kundalini experiences stimulate every single one of your 100 trillion cells. It stimulates all of your nerves. It stimulates all the organ systems in your biology, in your physiology. It gets into the actual cell and stimulates the mitochondria. It goes into the actual nucleus, stimulates the DNA and the RNA, and actually affects the chromosomes, and things start to evolve within the cellular level. Kundalini goes into the cell, goes into the nucleus, taps into the genes, the gene pool, and the DNA, and actually starts to stimulate the parts of your DNA that are currently in a state of dormancy. And once that happens, ladies and gentlemen, you now start to experience reality with more of your genes, more of your DNA actually stimulated. And we live in what I like to call the land of the bottom feeder. We live in a hell realm. Now, I'm a little not necessarily frustrated today, but I was meditating and contemplating earlier on the state of affairs here in the material world, and I'm rather upset with just how duped we've allowed ourselves to become here in this material world. We are governed by the parasites here, ladies and gentlemen. We have parasites in our system, physically, in the form of worms, liver flukes, you name it, ropeworms, tapeworms, nematodes, hookworms, pinworms. Excuse me, my nose itches. But we also have the astral parasites. We also have the dogmatic belief parasites that are actually hijacking our ability to quantum leap into our subconscious mind and create a bridge, a connection with our subconscious mind. You see, the greatest way that they've actually learned or tapped into the human being is through the consciousness. It's through the mind, especially the subconscious mind. We are controlled, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people put a ton of emphasis on diet and say that the Illuminati and these secret societies are controlling us through the diet and the NPK fertilizer and the aerosol sprays with the barium, the strontium, the aluminum. There's a lot of efficacy in that. There's a lot of truth, excuse me. There's a lot of validity in that because the food and the diet and the fluids and the air, these things all affect the genes. They all affect the biological makeup of the human body. However, the greatest way to control a human being, based on my research, study, trial and error, meditations and experiments hypnosis with myself, self-induced hypnosis. The greatest way to actually tap in to a human being and control them is through the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is something that I talk about heavily over on my Patreon page. I actually this month began a course on the learning the magical arts. And for those who don't know, the magical arts, magic essentially, practical magic for that matter. I'm not necessarily talking about esoteric magic here, but practical magic is the art and science of tapping into the subconscious mind, creating a relationship with it so that you can start manifesting things into your life. Practical magic is used to increase finances, it's used to increase health. There's a handful of different things that practical magic can be used for. However, most people have a very, very medieval kind of view, a very, very, I'm not going to say mentally ill. Most people have a very superstitious and warped view of what magic is, where they think magic is, you know, summoning entities and having all these magic circles and chanting words of power and using swords to fight off demons. It's ridiculous. Excuse me, I don't know why my nose itches so much. Magic, ladies and gentlemen, has a lot of superstition in it. Magic is just a system of correspondences, meditations, and symbology and colors that you can use, and sense, and there's just a handful of different things. It's a system to tap into the power of the subconscious mind and create a relationship with it. And for those who don't know, the subconscious mind essentially is how you attract everything into your life. So, however, getting off subject, I just wanted to plug that again because a lot of people contact me about magic. A lot of people go, oh, you're so interested in the occult. Do you have any videos on magic? Yes, I do, over on my Patreon page. Now, I charge for that, however. I put that on my Patreon page because I have spent so much time studying magic and applying it to my life over a 12-year period. And it takes a lot of time and effort to put all this stuff into video format. And it's an online school. It's an online school. Why do you charge for that? Well, why did you go to college and get scammed and pay for that? For $5 a month, you can begin practicing or learning the magical arts. It's a school. Next month, I'm also going to start doing anatomy and physiology courses. I have a lot of plans for that page. I'm also going to be creating a website for my YouTube channel here in the near future, so keep an eye out for that. But they tap into our minds, these secret societies in these groups. The ones that are using mind control, they tap into they control us through the subconscious mind, and they usually do that through belief. Now, they've done a great job warping people's minds and controlling them through the power of belief through dogmatic religious ideologies. Most people believe in a God that believes that you were born into sin, and a God that constantly calculates and weighs all of your actions in minute fractions and judges you based on every single one of them. They've taught you to fear the source. They've taught you that the source actually thinks lesser of you, that you are subservient to it, when in reality, you are a byproduct of the universal mind, also known as God. You are a piece of it. You are a piece of the Creator. Therefore, you are that. You are the Creator, because when the Creator creates things, it doesn't separate itself from its creations. Excuse me. But beliefs are powerful because beliefs are one of the greatest ways to tap into the subconscious mind. Beliefs also act as blockages in the magical arts or the process of the law of attraction, because if you have beliefs that, when you truly believe something with every fiber of your being, ladies and gentlemen, it gets fed directly into the subconscious mind like a computer, and all the subconscious mind does with those beliefs is it processes the information. It what's the word I'm looking for? Excuse me. It executes commands like computers. The subconscious mind is impartial to good and bad, whether they're beliefs, emotions, you name it. Takes the information, the illegitimate information that most of us feed the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind executes a command, and because the subconscious mind is connected to everything in existence, including the collective consciousness, it actually begins to modify things and change things and bring things into your life based on your beliefs. I hope that makes sense. So they've made life hell here in this world, largely because of beliefs, largely because of poverty. You see, this world was not designed to be a hell realm. It was designed to be heaven. This was at one point a brilliant shamanic garden where we interacted with nature. And we interacted with the zodiac and the celestial bodies. School, or nature was a school at one point. It was a mystery school, a shamanic mystery school. Now, I'm not saying that all things are bad here in this world, but let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen. For those who have eyes to see, ears to hear, and hearts to feel, you know that something's wrong. So, social anxiety, I keep getting off track. Social anxiety started for me after I had my first Kundalini experience, because I started to see people's real colors. The Kundalini really stimulated my perception to a point where it was like laser-like, where I could start seeing right through people's garbage. I could see right through people and read them like books. Now, largely that later on in my life I learned was impartially due to my moon being in Scorpio. However, to have a moon in Scorpio and to have your endocrine system and your glandular system and your consciousness and your brain stimulated by Kundalini, it takes that moon in Scorpio and it just intensifies it with like the power of 1,000 suns. So I started to become rather uncomfortable after those Kundalini experiences when I was around people that I used to be very comfortable around, because I could start to feel their emotions. I could start to hear their thoughts to some extent, and I validated this on a handful of occasions through telepathy, where I would sit next to people and finish sentences for them, or pull information out of their minds because I could feel their thoughts, and I would test it. Certain people, close family members and whatnot, I would interact with them, and there would be periods when we were in the house and everything was quiet, and I would focus on the thoughts that were just leaking out of them, and I would start responding to their thoughts as if they were speaking to me, to validate whether or not what I was hearing was correct, and oftentimes it was. They'd be like, "How did you know that? I wasn't even saying anything." It's because the Kundalini, ladies and gentlemen, stimulates dormant regions of the brain, the receptive parts of the brain that actually take in mental information that permeates out of the physiology and into the non-physical layers of the collective consciousness. I hope that makes sense. So for the longest time, I didn't know what the heck was wrong with me. The Kundalini was like a blessing and a curse, because it was an absolute blessing, but at the same time, it was a curse because I now could feel so much more. I realized that the majority of my life I had spent in a state of being numbed. I couldn't feel anything. And I believe that that's what most people are currently in a state of, a perpetual state of numbness, desensitization. And how unfortunate. You see, when our senses are completely stimulated, when we're in a better state of health, not just physically but mentally, we can feel much more. Our reflexes become much faster. Not only physical reflexes, but mental reflexes. We start to be able to feel the vibratory permeations of people's emotions when they're around us. We have our metaphysical antennas pointed upwards and stimulated and erected when we are in a better state of health. And I'm not talking about mainstream health, because mainstream health will not help you stimulate your psychic centers. Mainstream health, ladies and gentlemen, will only perpetuate a lack of health by telling you that you need to eat excessive amounts of animal products, and that cheese is good for you, and that chicken's the healthiest meat. I mean, the mind control is exponential. The mind control is exponential. They have done a very, very good job turning you into a domesticated creature that lives in a false environment. got a fly or a bug flying in front of my light. A domesticated creature that lives in a false environment. That false environment is the world that you live in that is outside of the world that you would naturally be living in. You see, we take in and digest information through the eyes, through the retina, you name it. It goes back into the back of the brain and gets processed in a region in the back of the brain. That region calculates all this information in electrical impulses, and you take in information and actually create a image based on the information that your brain is processing. I hope that makes sense. That might not have come out wrong. I don't have time to go back and make another one of these videos. I'm going to try to keep going forward without getting off on too many tangents. But we live in a world, ladies and gentlemen, where we are constantly taking in negative symbology through the eyes based on the artificial world that we live in. Now, for those who don't know, symbolism is the language of the subconscious. And as I mentioned earlier, the subconscious mind is the layer there. The subconscious mind, it would be very difficult to define, but we can define it simply in layman's terms by calling it the mind beneath the surface. The subconscious mind is the part of your mind that your conscious mind no longer has direct connection with because we've been warped. It is the part of our mind that lies beneath the surface. It operates on taking in information from the emotions, the imagination, and beliefs, and symbolism, The subconscious mind understands symbols. Again, the language of the subconscious mind is symbolism. Now, when you're in the material matrix, there is symbolism around you everywhere. Everywhere you look. On top of that, ladies and gentlemen, the symbols that are being fed into the eyes and affecting our subconscious mind are symbols that are not used in a beneficial manner. They are symbols that are used in a degradatory manner. I'm not sure if that's a word. Symbols that are used in a detrimental manner, let's put it that way. Now, based on the information that you take in through your eyes, the symbols, oftentimes you create beliefs, emotions, and thoughts based on the information from those symbols that you take in through your eyes, and they get fed into the subconscious mind. Now, the material matrix is abundant in negatively used symbolism. Magic, however, is the art and science of not only getting back in connection with your subconscious mind, but cleansing your mind from all this garbage so that you can regain your clarity, you can regain your throne, metaphorically speaking. You can regain your crown. We have to unload a lot of the information that we've taken in from childhood so that we can rebuild ourselves and scrub our consciousness clean so that we can have a fresh start and actually attain the lives that we actually want. Now, in the material world, we spend a lot of time indoors, and in the indoors environment is surrounded by unnatural, the houses that we live in are boxes, they're squares. Those squares go into the subconscious mind, the information that we're taking in, and feed the subconscious mind in a negative fashion. We take in a lot of unnatural visual information in the unnatural world that we live in. Now, in nature, when we're out in nature, you're taking in information from the trees, from the birds, from the light from the sun. All of that stuff is beneficial. Inside, you are around alternating current light, fluorescent light, which damages the skin, increases your likelihood of getting sick and getting cancers. I mean, the inside environment that the material matrix keeps you in for the majority of your day is destroying your health. Now, it's not only destroying your physical health, but it's destroying your mental health as well, because we need to be in the environment that we were designed to be in. Now, I'm not saying that we're just supposed to be out, climbing trees like, monkeys all day. No. But physical living quarters and spaces can be erected and built in a way that actually provides the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. It provides it with a channel so that it functions optimally. There is a reason why houses are designed the way that they are designed. Your house is a box with a lot of electrical current running through it that is non-beneficial for your health. On top of that, there is a bunch of artificial lighting. This artificial lighting not only affects your physical health, but it really impacts the health of your eyes. It also affects the outer lenses, the outer layers of your ethereal body, your auric body. The light also affects how our thoughts produce our reality. I hope that makes sense. Because thoughts are wavelengths of energy, and light can break these apart and whatnot. Excuse me. I'm going to try to keep this one under an hour. Buildings can be designed to actually work in symbiosis with the mind, with the subconscious mind. Symbols directly affect our health. Now, the houses that we live in have a lot of unnatural electrical current moving through them. We oftentimes have rugs that are filled full of different negative constituents, chemicals. We have beds that are filled full of fire retardants. The paint on the walls is unnatural, toxic. Now, I'm not saying this to frighten you. I'm just telling you how these things affect us, because they do affect us whether you want to believe it or not. A lot of the spray and all the deodorizers that people are putting in their houses are neurotoxins. Do you think that this stuff just has no effect on you? Are you just immune to it? Now many people spend so much time getting frustrated with me saying that your house is killing you. People like to defend what they're used to. People will fight, kick, and scream to defend the status quo, ladies and gentlemen, even though it's destroying their health. My question to you is, if you have a problem with me acknowledging the truth and relaying it to you, if it agitates a response in you, first you have to ask yourself, why are you being agitated by hearing the truth? And it is the truth. You can counter-research my claims, look it up, you name it. It'll always, if you don't look at the research through a biased lens, and you don't just cherry pick the first few articles that you find that are funded by many of the organizations that create these products and whatnot, if you dig past the surface, you will find that a majority of the things like soap that you're putting on your skin, the shampoos, the carpets, the rugs, the electricity in your house, the dirty electricity, even the curtains that you have that diffuse light into your house damage the way that the light comes into the home. All this stuff is designed, whether or not it's deliberate, to destroy health. It doesn't matter. It is destroying your health. So why do you have an issue with that? It's much easier to just remedy the issue. Most people spend so much money on their enslavement. So many people spend so much money on things that destroy their health, and they defend those things. Where what I did is, my wife and I, we went down a list and we looked at everything in our living space and augmented it and modulated it so that there was less toxicity. The rug beneath my feet is 100% natural, uncolored, unbleached, non-dyed jute carpet. Jute rugs. We got rid of all the unnatural rugs with all the fake synthetic fibers, and we spent about $1,100, maybe a little bit more, dollars on all these rugs. And now when you walk on this stuff, you're those delicate and very sensitive energy portals, the meridians in your feet, the sacred channels that chi moves throughout your physical body, they're not coming in contact with unnatural garbage. We got rid of all this silverware and moved to bamboo. We got rid of 95% of all the processed vegan junk food that we were potentially eating at the time. Now, it's not like we were living on this stuff, but there was a period in time where we were eating a little bit too much of that stuff out of convenience. We ditched the microwave. Goodbye. We eat the cleanest, healthiest food that we can get our hands on. Now, obviously, we live in a world where you're not going to be able to get the best quality food, even if you're eating the quote-unquote best quality food, because even the organic food is grown in a way that is very, very backwards spiritually. We live in crazy times, ladies and gentlemen. So I just wanted to get that out there because there's so many things affecting us. Now, this was supposed to be a social anxiety rant, but we went off on a handful of different subjects. They're all relative, however, because You know, if you have social anxiety issues, it might be just because you're really, really intelligent and you can't handle people in their low level of thinking. Now, you shouldn't jump to conclusions, however, and just adopt that belief system, because that can be very dangerous. There are still times where I'm too hard on other people because I expect people to be on the same emotional wavelength as me. I have a lot of growing to do. But when it comes to people outside of my close family and friends, I can't tolerate it at this point. I have things I need to get done. If you are not going to help me on my mission, and if your mission in life doesn't intertwine with mine, if we can't work in symbiosis to create a better world or to evolve, I don't want to be around you. I'm sorry. I don't have time for it. My studies are far too close and too dear to my heart to spend time being distracted by things like going out and drinking or just doing what's normal. I don't like normal things. Because the more you actually study normal things, you'll realize that they're far from normal. And the things that are actually normal are considered as being unnormal. Hope that makes sense. You see, we live in a world where things have been flipped backwards. Up is down, right is, up is down. Wrong is considered right, right is considered wrong. There's like this complete flipping around, and it's a byproduct of living in this crazy world. My mission in life is to try to inspire people to increase their health, both of their physical body and their mind, so that you can become more of who you really are. Whether or not that makes your life more difficult, I can't say. For many people, it's easier to stay in a state of relaxed numbness, so to speak, than to evolve past that and to stimulate the higher senses, the psychic centers. Many people who start stimulating the psychic centers, and you don't just do that through dietary, you can affect and stimulate your psychic centers through diet to a large extent, because there are certain foods that can help you do that. However, a lot of this is meditation and communication with the subconscious mind. You have to go into your mind and separate all the cobwebs that are in your mind that have been put here by this material world that you absorbed as beliefs. You see, most of us have a belief system that we fully cultivated before we were even 10 years old. It is proven and well acknowledged that most of human beings and their belief systems were created in their early years, from age right when you start. Once you came out the womb, your programming started. I'm not trying to sound rude. I'm just saying that through symbolism, before you can even understand language, you started to believe it. You started to create belief systems based on the visual stimulus that was coming into your consciousness. A lot of us have unconscious beliefs that we don't even remember anymore, that were created in our early years, that we adopted from religious dogma, our parents, our friends and their parents, you name it. Now, I'm not pointing any fingers or judging. I'm just telling you the truth. Social anxiety. Is social anxiety a bad thing? Or is it actually a normal byproduct of people who are highly stimulated on certain levels than the masses aren't? And because of that, you are uncomfortable in situations with people who aren't on your level. Because oftentimes people with social anxiety get uncomfortable around other people because, how would I put it? It's not necessarily that people with social anxiety find other people boring. It's just they lack a common ground of interest. They lack a connection with certain people, because those other people just come off very strange. Excuse me. Let's try to rephrase that. For me personally, I get uncomfortable around certain people because many people will try to engage in a conversation with me and by default expect me to go down their familiar pattern. They expect me to react in a certain way. They expect me to follow a particular dialogue. They're expecting that. And I can see that. Again, I have my moon in Scorpio. I can see deeper. I can see past things, and it really disturbs me and bothers me when people by default expect me to just go along with what they expect me to go along with. It's the most egotistical thing. And you may be thinking, oh, you think too hard, you think too much. I don't think you think enough, personally. And I think that's the problem with many people here in this material world. Most people don't think enough. It makes me really uncomfortable when people come up to me and engage in conversations that they expect me to engage in. It's like, dude, I have things no. And I hate having to pretend that people's jokes are funny and things like that. I just don't do it anymore. And it makes people really uncomfortable. It's like, I'm sorry. I did that for many years. When I first started noticing social anxiety, people would come up to me or talk to me and make jokes. And it's like, haha, yeah, I don't want to be fake. I'm not going to laugh at your fake jokes just to make you comfortable. You have to really start looking at yourself and asking yourself, are you being honest with yourself? Are you being true to yourself? Are you following someone else's script just to make their lives better? You see, many people are vampires. They are emotional vampires. They want your attention because your attention feeds them energy that makes them feel more, not necessarily alive, but human interaction is very, very powerful, ladies and gentlemen. For instance, if you came home from a long day of work and your significant other was a complete jerk to you, it can bring you down like that. It can bring you down emotionally much quicker than any superfood or any of that. Human interaction is very powerful, and many people feed off human interaction. However, human interaction in this day and age is just 9 times out of 10 very superficial. It doesn't go past the commonplace norm. I can basically go into autopilot with certain individuals, and I know what to expect going into a conversation, even though I don't even particularly know an individual. I can start talking with an individual out in public that I've never met before, and just I know what they're going to want to talk about. It's like, ugh. Why aren't you obsessed? Why aren't you looking up at the aerosol sprays? Why aren't we talking about evolution? Why aren't we working with ourselves and looking... Excuse me. Why are we such a boring species when we don't have to be? Blows my mind. You see, the human being has the potential to become a demigod. It has the potential and ability, the human species, to attain a constant and perpetual state of enlightenment. This is known as gnosis. Through reawakening particular regions within our biology that have become asleep due to subconscious programming and the hexes and the spells and magic that has been put on us by the individuals and groups and hierarchies that run the show here in the material world. And whether you like to believe it or not, these societies exist, ladies and gentlemen. And it's in their best interest for you to just think that I sound crazy. Because, you know, excuse me, for you to just go, it can't be true. That's what they want. They're right out in the public for anyone with eyes to see, who are willing to look and not be afraid of the truth. To not be afraid of the truth. I think a lot of people also have social anxiety, maybe because they're bored with life. It's like, I'd much rather be doing something much more interesting right now than being here at this 9-to-5 job, doing these perpetual repetitive, actions like a computer. Most people with social anxiety are very, very creative individuals who strive for things that are much greater than the average Joe has the ability to comprehend. And it's that lack of the ability for those people around us to comprehend the fact that we want to attain things that are greater that really disturbs us, I think, on the psyche, in the psychological levels. We get frustrated with people sometimes unjustifiably because we expect them to be on our level. However, it's very frustrating for many individuals that are commonplace to expect us to go down to their level just to communicate with them. It's like, all right, I'm tired of going down there. Come up to me. Now, I'm not exalting myself over people in any way, shape, or form. Just because I have different aspirations, goals, desires, dreams, longings, you name it, than other people, just because I think outside the box compared to many people, that doesn't make me better than anyone. That doesn't mean, however, that I'm not going to not get bored around people who want to stay in a box, man. This video is kind of just a random rant, so to speak. I want to wrap this video up, you guys, by asking you to envision a greater world in your mind. Stop giving in to all this garbage out here. A lot of people have a very warped view of reality, and I can understand why. I still do to a large extent as well. It takes years. It can, excuse me. For some people it doesn't, but it can take a long time and a lot of effort to wipe clean all the engrams and different programs that we've accepted in the forms of beliefs and whatnot. We've created certain mental frameworks that are non-beneficial to us as a culture. We have to reprogram this. A lot of us are stuck in negativity, and that's not doing anything beneficial for the collective consciousness. A lot of people expect the worst. Stop expecting the worst. It's just as easy to expect the best, but it requires faith, determination, and commitment to that, because so many people are so used to the whole what's next, man? Never ending. It's just a never ending thing, and there's so much trouble here on earth. Why does life have to be so hard? All these things you tell yourself, these are a byproduct of you believing and expecting in the worst. In order to start expecting the best and believing in yourself and believing that things are going to get better, it's going to require some diligent mental, work. Because you're going to have to say no to all the programs that pop up to try to agitate a response out of you. The lower self will do everything in its potential to remain in its comfortable state of numbness. Staying numb. The lower self is governed by negativity. It's an immature version of ourself. The higher self is associated with our creative potential, our enlightenment potential, the greatest version of ourself. And we do that by evolving out of our old patterns. But we have to use critical self-analysis and look at all the things in our life that we're doing that are non-beneficial, so that by acknowledging these things, we can grow out of them. I talk more about this in the Learning the Magical Art series over on my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/sacredserpent. If you're interested in learning more about the subjects I discuss, head over there and consider becoming a member. It's an investment for your health. I put a lot of time and effort and work and care into that page, that website. It's my baby. But I'm still learning, I'm still deprogramming from years and years of negative thinking and expecting bad things to happen in life. You see, we've done these things for so long. Excuse me. Sometimes when I think, I put my hand like that when I'm in deep thought. We've done these things for so long, ladies and gentlemen, that it requires mental diligence and daily work to break out of these negative cycles of mentality. So every time you have a negative thought, you have to override it with a positive thought, but you can't just override it with a positive thought that doesn't have emotion. You see, all negative feelings have a lot of emotion involved in them. You can often feel it in your gut, near your solar plexus. When you have negative thoughts, it affects those nerves. It affects that part of your biology. You have a lot of emotion. Most people, when they have negative emotions, negativity, when they have negative thoughts, they're highly imbued and saturated in negativity. So if you're going to try to override a negative thought or feeling, you have to override it with positivity that's also imbued with feeling, with positivity. That's where most people fail. Because most negative thoughts have a lot more emotion behind them. They can be felt much more. Because it's hard at times to be optimistic when you're constantly in a state of negativity, to force yourself into happiness. It's like an individual who's struggling, and in his struggle that's so just enveloping him, he tries to tell himself he's happy, but deep down he knows he's not happy. But you can get out of this cycle if you apply positive thinking with feeling with a handful of different measures through the practice and art of the practical magic system. It's a system for regaining and tethering yourself to your higher self through the subconscious mind. You have to use things like repetitive repetitive subjective thinking. Subjective thinking is thinking that's imbued with feeling. When you have negative thoughts come up, you have to override them like a computer attacking a virus with a positive thought that's imbued with positive thinking. And you back that up through things called affirmations. I talk about affirmations on the Patreon page. You also have to bring into your life all the health and the mental meditation work and all this. There's just a handful of different things in this protocol to reprogram the mind. Because once the mind is reprogrammed, you get rid of all these negative emotions and things that are just destroying your health from behind the scenes, absolutely destroying your health. Negativity affects every single one of your 100 trillion cells. It affects the genes. It affects the mitochondria. It strips your body of vital essence. It makes you feel fatigued and weak. It can make you feel brittle. Negativity and depression is horrible. I love all you guys. If you've made it this far in this video, thank you for watching. Chances are you are, excuse me. People who watch my lengthier videos are usually my biggest fans. I love all of you guys. It makes me feel really, really good to get on here and make these videos and try to inspire people, to try to touch people, to try to move people. To me, video making is an art form. It's a form of artwork, because not only can you use creative words to try to tap into people's emotions and minds and to help and potentially help them, but it's also a not only can you use videos to try to inspire people, but you can also use videos to try to stimulate evolutionary processes here in this world through the act of inspiring people. Because I can inspire someone to change, that potentially that one person, if they change a few things in their life, could get healthier and just become incredibly powerful and create things or invent things and just completely change the world. We need to create a domino effect of evolution by waking people up or getting people more interested in questioning things here in the material world. Through questioning, it's the question that drives us, just like Trinity tells Neo in the Matrix. It's the question that drives us. It's the question that drives you to the answer. And through answers, we obtain wisdom. And through wisdom, we can make proper decisions and attain the life that we actually want. We have the power to change the world, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot stress this enough. People say, that's not true. What are we going to do? Things are just so messed up. That's negative thinking. When you believe that, you're actually creating a subconscious current of energy that's going to try to create that reality. Change your thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. We created this mess, and all messes, not all of them, but most of them, have the ability to be fixed. And the human mind and the human consciousness is something, it's a force to be reckoned with. We can change the world, ladies and gentlemen. We can turn this world into a brilliant ecosphere full of evolution and Kundalini and science and magic, where no one goes hungry. Peace be with you all.